thugging around. A cold winter wind swept over the dimly lit town. The crunching of snow could be heard from the main street. A man covered in a black winter coat, toque, and gloves walked with his hands in his pockets. He walked slowly, as if he was aimlessly wandering the city. The man suddenly tilted his head back as he stopped by an alley. After checking for a tail, the man turned off from the main street into a back alley, as if the man was never there.
Man, you know the fuck you're talking to?
Shouted a man across the room as he rose to his feet.
Say that again, and I'll break your teeth!
The man standing by the entrance in full winter clothes who was being shouted at ignored the thug and proceeded to take off his winter gloves. A muscular man wearing a suit standing beside him stepped up protectively in front of the man as he took off his coat. The muscular man stood silently but gave off an intimidating aura. The large man looked strong enough to break the table that thug used to be seated at in half with his bare hands. The thug who had previously been shouting looked at the bodyguard nervously, but then snickered.
Yeah, you may be big, but I roll with Miles Cerrone's gang. Do you know how much power we have in this city? Going against him would be suicidal.
The man had a large, self-confident smile running across his face. The bodyguard turned slightly back to look at the man in the winter clothes, who gave a nod. The bodyguard quickly punched the thug square in the face. Before the thug could even react, he had already gotten behind him. The thug could feel his arm being twisted behind his back as his face was slammed onto the table. He was completely overwhelmed by the difference in strength, as his head remained pinned.
What the fuck are you doing? Oh, you guys are crazy. Oh, you'll be killed for this. Oh, they'll fucking kill you.
The man shouted, desperate and angry as he struggled futilely to free himself. The man calmly took off his hat and placed it on the table next to the thug as he responded.
It seems like you are the one with no fucking idea who you are talking to.
The man, still pinned, was forced to look into his heartless eyes. With one hand, a knife was plunged into his throat, and with the other hand, his mouth was covered, suppressing his final scream. Forced to stare at the cold eyes of his murderer in his final moments.
I am Mal Cerrone, and this is my house.
Mal let out an irritated sigh as the body went limp under his blade. Leaving the knife where it was, he turned around to look around the room he hadn't seen in decades.
Clean up this mess,
he said aimlessly, but his instructions nonetheless were faithfully carried out by the muscular man in the suit. It was a small place, but he wasn't the type of person that put on extravagant displays of wealth and power. He preferred to be the powerful figure hiding in the shadows. The unseen power was the deadliest.
I've been gone too long. These new people working for me don't even know what I look like anymore,
he said again to no one in particular.
Looks like I have a lot of work to do.
Thugging Around, Chapter 2. Snow continued to crunch softly as the man in the jacket walked down the alley. He walked up to a building that looked like any other in the city, but rather than going right up to it, he walked past it, around another building, and snuck up to the building from the back entrance. He tested the door handle, but already predicted the outcome. Very quickly he brandished a set of lockpicks and got to work on the door. Within a few moments, the door clicked open. He silently moved from room to room, taking the long way around the back of the warehouse, avoiding the areas where he knew guards would be stationed. He got near the most heavily guarded room. It was where the money was kept, and the most important part of the building to the person running this operation. From the darkness of some boxes he pulled out a handgun from his pocket, aimed it at one of the guards in front of the door, and put it down on top of one of the storage crates. He attached a device with a timer to the trigger and left back through the door he entered from. He walked back until he got outside one of the rooms where he knew his target was staying. He hid himself and patiently waited. The money and the drugs. That's what was most valuable in this building. It was also what was most well guarded. More importantly, it was what they would think he was after. Bang! The sound of a gunshot went off, followed by a man yelling. Then there was the sound of men shouting, and more gunshots going off. He knew it was just the handgun being fired at random intervals, but they didn't know that. The device was rigged to set off a wide-area smoke bomb as the gun fired. It would take them a few minutes to realize they weren't under attack. But in those moments, the guards would be on high alert and assume, incorrectly, that the attacker would want their money, drugs, or to interfere with their business. Several men with assault rifles run past the room he was in and towards the gunshots. That should be the last of them. He moved out of his hiding spot, pulled a knife out of his pocket, and opened the door. The room was a small one, used only for meetings and negotiating deals. In it there was a single man.
Who are you?
He nervously asked. A knife across his neck was the coded man's answer. He wiped the blood of the knife on the dead man's sleeve, then grabbed the large black rifle case and headed out of the room. The gunfire had stopped. They would fan out and look for intruders soon. He didn't have much time left. He ran out the back door that he entered from and kept moving through the alleys on his predetermined escape route. Yes, this was risky. Maybe most would even call it insane. But precisely why it was so crazy was the reason he knew he would get away with it. He got to his car and placed the case in the back seat. He got into the driver's seat and started driving. In a few minutes, they would realize his trick, but they won't know why. They would be able to figure out the only thing missing was the sniper rifle that was being bought. But no one would attack them just for that. There were easier ways to get a hold of one. Normally they would be right. Only someone with incredibly detailed information on their operation would be able to plan this, and someone like that would have simpler ways to buy one. But he didn't have the money, or more importantly, the time. As he drove, he glanced at his watch. Time was running out. He only had a small window before his chance would close off forever. Would he make it in time? Thugging Around, Chapter 3. An alarm clock was ringing. That's it. That's all the author had.